guys I better get used to.
Welcome to At the Elephants. I'm your host, Rob Morris, and I am absolutely thrilled to bring you an excellent show today. It's an interesting show today. I'm actually pretty excited to share it with you. So first things first, I promised some people some shout-outs, so let's get that taken care of. Number one, I believe, was Chessa Metz, who is a second-year drama student currently. And I believe she was in the high school program. She's from Concord, North Carolina, and she's super nice. That is most of what I know about her, but shout out to Chessa. Also, Alberto Young, who you might know from Alberto Young in the Plantation of Flame, a little side project he was involved in 2009 that really blew a lot of people away. And my good friend Anthony Bain, who lives in Round Rock, Texas, is an old friend of mine and a huge supporter of At the Elephants. Anthony is simply one of the kindest and funniest people that I've ever met, and I really don't give that away too lightly. So shout out to Anthony and his lovely wife, Stephanie. Much love for you. I received a message recently from an old friend of mine from my days in design and production at NCSA, and he actually didn't complete his track. NCSA is a rough place, and a lot of people make the decision that it's not for them. And he actually is a listener of the show and a fan of the show, and he sent me a little message that I'd like to read for you now. If anyone is ever thinking about dropping out of UNCSA partway, don't. Ever since I left, I've deeply regretted it, and I'm still paying for it with negative feedback on my resume, with UNCSA still on there but not finishing. And there's the crappy jobs that I've gotten rather than the things I see other people getting, like PSM for a national Broadway tour right out of college. It really is discouraging to use Facebook these days because my newsfeed is littered with my classmates doing wonderful things. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't hold anything against my classmates, UNCSA, or future UNCSA generations. Instead, it fuels me to gain connections, learn more, and try harder. It's a great sentiment, and I really wanted to share. So for those of you struggling and having a difficult time, hang in there. It's going to be all right. On the very same night that Speed the Plow, directed by Laura Braza and acted in by Kira Geiger, Michael Johnson, and Matthew Van Gessel, were performing their final dress rehearsal, the exact same play was opening in London's West End, starring Lindsay Lohan in the only female role. Well, unfortunately, Miss Lohan did not have all of her lines together, and they had to feed them to her off stage, and, to put it lightly, London really tore her a new one. I guess she couldn't handle it. I have to say I saw Miss Geiger perform the same role in the RJR screening room, and it was absolutely excellent. That is score one for Kira Geiger, and Miss Lohan, back to the drawing board. Megan West, an At the Elephants favorite and past guest, appeared last Wednesday on the series premiere of How to Get Away with Murder, a new thrilling series from Grey's Anatomy creator Shonda Rhimes, starring Viola Davis. I'll say I've seen it, and I can mention two things without any spoilers. It is nothing like Grey's Anatomy, and it was the most lifeless performance I've ever seen from my friend Megan. And I mean simply stiff and lifeless, and honestly, she looked a little pale. Just go watch it if you haven't already. It's on Hulu and iTunes.
Okay.
Of like what I'm doing. Therefore, okay. Well, I got cast in a pilot for ABC.
Nice.
And it was going for ABC, and I went to go film the pilot in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called How to Get Away with Murder.
Nice.
It stars Viola Davis from The Help.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome in it. So same writer as Grey's Anatomy Scandal.
Oh, nice.
So great writing.
Shonda Rhimes?
Shonda Rhimes.
So you're doing this pilot,
yes,
and it gets picked up by ABC.
It does get picked up. It just got picked up a few days ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I don't know what my future's gonna entail.
Right.
Like my agent's even like, oh, are you gonna commute? Are you gonna live
Where
there?
does it
Like,
shoot?
Los Angeles.
Right.
So I have no idea when I'm going, how long I'm going, because I know my character is only for the season.
For sure?
Yes, because I start off dead, and I can tell you this because it's not going to be a surprise after the pilot, and then you figure out how I got there. There's going to be like one murder per episode, and then there's also like 2 through-line murders, like that go through the season. I'm one of the through-line murders. But it was a crazy event. I only had to film for like 2 days. That was fun because I got to film in freezing water. And
Wearing how much?
I actually was wearing a wetsuit underneath everything.
Oh, nice.
But the wetsuit was like, made for film, so it wasn't a real like heavy-duty wetsuit.
Was it made to look like you weren't wearing it?
Yes, it was like literally my skin color. It was very interesting. And water would seep in it, and and this water was freezing because they found out the pool heater was broken like a day before.
That sounds like production.
Yeah, and they were like, and then one of the producers came up to me and showed me a picture and was like, "Oh yeah, this is what you would have been filming in if we had the budget." But it's a pilot, so you would have been in like a studio with a heated pool. And I was like, oh cool, thank you for showing me that right now, because I'm freezing. I was drinking tea in the water, and even the stunt guy was literally shivering, and like I had to be dead. So that was a crazy experience. I'm going to go do some autopsy scene, and I don't even know how I really die. So I'll be excited to get to read the script. They haven't given it to me yet, but I'm set to shoot it next week.
Oh, well, very nice. That's a good reflection of the pace at which things normally move.
Yes. I mean, they call you and they're like, you ready to film? And it's like, oh, now we're ready.
So how did that go? That when you last left them, they said, okay, we've done this pilot and we hope it gets picked up. And then later they called you and they said it got picked up. We'll call you when we need you again.
Yes, that's it.
Gotcha. And then it was just like, hey, we need you next week. Megan also spent some time recently in Atlanta working on the new series Constantine, based on the original Hellblazer comics about John Constantine. You might also remember a recent film starring Keanu Reeves and Shia LaBeouf, Tilda Swinton. It's actually pretty good, despite how poorly it did. Megan landed a guest star in this first season of Constantine. Here's her to tell you about it.
Yeah, I got back yesterday from Atlanta, and I have like 2 days to pack and get everything ready. Thank
what
goodness,
were you working on in Atlanta? Was that Constantine or?
That was Constantine.
Oh, I didn't know it was shooting down there. Was it always shooting down there, or did it move recently?
No, it was always shooting down there. They've shot all their stuff down there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
And are you, how many episodes into this first season are you?
I'm episode 7. It's called Blessed Are the Damned.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I liked the title.
All right, is this close to I don't know much about the show. Do you know like what part of the comic it's following, or is it just doing its own thing, or do you know?
I think it's doing its own thing. Like my character just like doesn't like exist in the comics.
Gotcha.
They are taking kind of his storyline, like he starts out in like the mental hospital, like where he started, and it kind of goes back to like talking about the shock therapy that he had to go through and all that stuff. But it follows like his story, but the characters in it, like there's not like Swamp Thing or anything like in it. It's just like different. Each episode is dealing with a demon or creature or ghoul or whatever we like to call them.
And did you say you're a fallen angel?
I am a fallen angel, so I pretend to be a good angel for a while, and I deceive a lot of people, and I end up getting killed in the end, of course. So she's very smart. I mean, the way she gets, I guess I can kind of like tell you the story of it. So what happens is
you're gonna have to wait for that one. It's Megan. You know she'll be back. Another story I'd like to share with you is that of a friend of mine who I had originally intended to be on the show. I did actually have the interview recorded, and I wanted to share it with you guys. But after putting the segment together and sharing it with this colleague, we decided to pull the segment. My friend got a television acting job, a really great entry-level role in a mediocre program. Now, I think my friend's story about working on the show is probably not unrelated to its cancellation, but not because of an incident, but because of what she observed as the general attitude of the cast and crew. So, essentially, she showed up, ready to work, and while it wasn't an incredibly well-written show, she was excited to have her first real-life television job. She was excited, appreciative, and rightfully anxious. After getting dolled up in costume and makeup and feeling great, she made her way to set, where one of the regular cast members was taking a picture of her iPad with her iPhone while in the middle of a phone call. Now, my friend hadn't even brought her phone to set because in her mind, what was she going to do with it? Well, the way the show is shot, for what was explained as editing purposes, it required the actors to take unnaturally large pauses in between each line, making it really difficult for anything real to happen. Not that this fazed most of the actors, because they all seemed mostly interested in going through the drag of filming in order to get to the amazing craft services table where they could get whatever they wanted. Now, at the end of 2 days, she took home what she described to me as a disgusting amount of money for how much work she had done, and one can only imagine how much iPad Girl was taking home for her commitment to the process. Now, I share this story with you in spite of not using the segment for 2 reasons. Not all jobs are sunshine and rainbows, and I'm interested in sharing all perspectives on this program. The truth is more interesting than anything else. The other reason is because I completely understand why my friend wasn't comfortable with the segment airing. She's new to this business, and it probably wouldn't be helpful for her representation to hear on a talk show how much she didn't enjoy that job that they got her. Now, I don't think she should be obligated to enjoy every job that she gets, but in an ideal world, any rational human representing her would understand if they heard the full story that she approached the subject with humble integrity. She was appreciative of the opportunity that she was given, and her disappointment came mostly in the fact that the other people who had the same opportunity were not as appreciative. It can be a disheartening thing to experience, but it isn't an ideal world, and that's why that expression exists. So the takeaway lesson, I think, is this. There are people in this business making mad money being mediocre workers. That's good news for hard workers. Also, when you discuss the world with humble integrity, well, we all get a little closer to an ideal world. Christian Daly, or what if Stanley Kowalski wore tighter trousers? When Christian and I did Streetcar together in college with Rob Ruggiero and Matty Jo Landers, I got an amazing opportunity to be truly affected by Tennessee Williams for the first time. Daly's Stanley Kowalski stunk of sweat and Brando. Matty loved me for a liar as Blanche Dubois, and Rob Ruggiero was also a really great Blanche most of the time. Apparently, some other people enjoyed it too, and that led to some very interesting goings-on when it came time for Christian's LA showcase.
It was nice because I had a big part in planning it, and once we were in LA, it was nice because our showcase went specifically LA, DC, New York.
Right.
And it varies from year to year, but I liked doing that circuit a lot because by the time we got to New York, we had sort of fleshed off all the nerves, and we were like, all right, let's rock this, let's do it, let's go out, let's talk to people, and let's start drinking.
Were you one of the people who had representation before Showcase?
In a way, I did.
How so?
I knew I had options before we went into Showcase because when we were working on Streetcar, which you and I worked on together.
That's correct.
Which I loved.
Oh, man.
Having you in the room for that.
Some of my favorite memories, man.
We could talk about that later.
Sure.
Mark Rodante, who works with BRS, which is now BRS Gauge.
Right.
There's been a merger, came and saw me in that, and then he sort of began to call me and basically court and say, we're interested, and when you're in New York, we would like to see you. So it was nice. So I had a plan coming out of school, Like I had a little bit of confidence walking into the room knowing that somebody in the industry already believed in me.
Right.
Which was nice. It wasn't an advantage I don't think other people had. But anyway, he got to see me, and then we went to LA, and John Langs was directing our showcase, who is absolutely amazing to work with. You've worked with John before.
I have.
And he lives in Los Angeles. He really kind of knows what they're looking for.
Right, yeah, he and his wife Clea.
Yeah, who's beautiful.
Yeah.
And
very
such a
talented
lovely woman.
also.
So he directed the whole showcase, which was totally a gift because he had that perspective. But yeah, I kind of, like, he came up to me afterwards and he was like, basically what he said is like, you knocked it out of the park. It went very well. I was very busy while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that means, like, I booked anything isn't true. Like, I had a lot of very strange experiences. I went into a lot of rooms that were not legitimate and, like, should not be representing people.
What was the shadiest room you went into?
The shadiest room I went into...
what? Or I guess, yeah, here's a better way to frame the question. What was the shortest amount of time that it took you to go? No.
That's actually a really good way to put that. There was and I wish I remembered their names so I could warn everyone against them.
That's kind of the idea of this.
I know. It'll come to me and I'll let you know.
Well, hopefully they'll be out of business and there'll be other hacks out there.
I think they're probably out of business. But they basically, you'll know if you go in because it's a house that they've rented out as opposed to an actual office building that I showed up to. It's in Santa Monica. And I walk in, and first of all, it's a house, and I walk in, and the secretary's there, and I'm sitting down, and there's not really anybody else there, and I can't see the agent, and the only person that says, hello to me is kind of like, isn't it great that it's in a house? And I'm kind of like, yeah, sure. Not at all feeling that way.
Right.
So I walk in, he's sitting behind this huge desk, and I sit down, and, very appropriate question. I'm kind of like, so, like, who do you represent? Like, who's your movers and shakers? Like, how big's the company?
You had all kind of, like, come up with your little list of questions, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, you want to know the ratio of, like, the big stars that they have versus how much attention they can give to you bringing them in.
Right.
It's kind of like a clout versus attention kind of ratio.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was like, we represent everyone. And I was like, who's everyone? He was like, we represent everyone. I was like, okay, moving on. You obviously have nothing to say about this.
Wow.
So then he drops me 2 auditions to give him in the room. One's a commercial audition for like some Xbox thing, and then another one is like a 10-page set of sides.
No way.
So I go out and I work on them, and I come back in, and I'm like doing this audition in 3 feet behind his desk, kind of like moving around and trying to make it work. And at the end of it all, he goes, all right, great. Well, thanks so much. And like if we're interested in you, call us back on Wednesday and we'll let you know.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Give that to me one more time.
He asked me to call him back to see if they were interested in me on Wednesday, 2 days later.
Okay.
So
the way you phrased it was even stranger. If we're interested in you, call us back.
Yes.
Wait, what?
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous situation. And the weirder part was that everybody was so gung-ho about how well it was going. I got the chance to finally do some research on them later, which you should always do, and I just didn't get to. But they basically had misled like a lot of young actors. And so like there's something to be said for, do your research, be aware of the people that call you in, see everyone because every experience is worthy to have, but be very wary of the room you're walking into. Know the people, know their history, know who they've represented.
Yeah, it's like you have a smartphone, you have no excuse. Yeah. Like Google it on the cab over or whatever it is you're doing, or rental car or whatever. It's like figure it out. One Google search is like, oh, nothing. Well,
no.
That's a pretty big flag. If like I Google the name of your business in charge of famous people and I can't even find the listing, it's like, dude, you're not doing that great.
Yeah,
no. You're off track.
Not at all. IMDb Pro account, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There was another funny story that happened when I was in Los Angeles, was that I was meeting with the BRS team, and it was going really well, and I know that I had parked across the street in like a meter situation. And it was on, I don't remember, one of the large avenues in LA that it's clearly not okay to park on for any extended period of time.
It's clear to you now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The way this story goes. But I was in the room and we were talking, and I thought to myself, like, if I leave now, they're not gonna sign me. And then, so basically what happened is, like, I just said, fuck it, and I let the meter run. And as I'm leaving the agency, 30 minutes later, I get out and I see, like, across Hollywood Boulevard that my mother's car is being towed.
Oh, you didn't even have a rental. You had your mother's car.
No, I had my mother's car. Wow. Because I'm from San Diego, so it was just easier for me.
Sure.
And I freak out, and I don't have the cash to bribe him to give me the car back.
Right.
So I have to get in this car and then go all the way and pay for it. Anyway, the moral of the story is just go ask to move your fucking car.
Right, yeah. Put it off. Don't worry about what they're gonna say.
No. And they would have, it was funny because I was so, like, young and concerned at the time, but in retrospect, I should have just been like, I need 5 minutes.
What was the biggest mistake that you made during your meetings?
Ooh, this is actually really easy. This is so easy.
Great.
I was in a meeting with Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And I was meeting with their head casting director. But I was so nervous, and I had gotten advice that she's sort of this, like, cute little old casting lady who just wants to be taken out on a dinner, and I was sort of young, and she had worked with, she had worked with some really, really big names in theater, and I was kind of asking her about that and what that was like, and she was like, well, they're dead now, so, like, I don't really want to talk about it, and I got so nervous that I, like, kicked her glass table by accident, and I almost broke the entire glass table.
Dude.
And then they were also having me in not only to meet me, but to read for something. And it was for this new political sitcom called The White House, which I think only lasted about 2 seasons.
What were you auditioning for?
This guy who, like, this sort of gay lover who, like, does a big line of coke, and then they have this conversation about their relationship. They hadn't cast it yet, but it was like this shirtless audition. Anyway, I go into the back, and I had never really worked with sides extensively.
Is that kind of a specialty for you, the shirtless audition?
That was actually the only time someone's asked me to be shirtless in an audition. That and Vanya, Sonia, Masha, and Spike.
Yeah.
And that audition is, if you don't take your shirt off, then, like, it's probably not gonna happen.
Right.
But I memorized the wrong lines of the sides while I was waiting in the room. I know. I know. Like, so many mistakes made. I was so green.
Sure, dude.
But it's hilarious to look back on it.
Don't mistake yourself. You're gonna keep fucking up. Oh yeah, dude. You got so many more coming. We're gonna talk again in like 5 years. You'd be like, dude, I got like 3 more for you.
I got 3 more huge mistakes
so this
I made.
one time I actually broke the table. I got that done.
I kicked the reader in the face. Yeah. You know, I slapped the cameraman.
Last week, Christian opened the Playmakers Rep production of Durang's Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike, joining Alex Shaw and the original Billy Magnuson in the ranks of pickled spikes. Mr. Daly will spend a couple of days in New Orleans training at the International Tales of the Cocktail Festival, and then it's back to New York because, well, every day he's hustling. So last episode, I put out the prompt to everybody to give me feedback and opinions and stories and whatever they had to share regarding the campus police. I find it fascinating to share with you that I received, hold on, let me count, 0 comments, opinions, stories whatsoever. Not a single person, present, past, student, faculty, nobody gave me anything at all. Now, to say it's a disappointment is true, but not really the most interesting thing that I'm taking away from this. I find it very, and while it is slightly disappointing, I think it is interesting to draw the one conclusion that we know we can, which is they're more intimidating than your average college campus law enforcer. I want to take a second to say thank you to everybody who's listened to this program so far. I know I say that every time, but I want to say it specifically at this point. Now, we've gotten almost 500 listens, I think, total on the program, which is really just incredible, and I'm very excited to have you all involved with this. It means the world to me. I want to hear from you, all of you. Drop me a line, send me a message, leave me a comment, tell me what you think. The very few interactions I've had about the show have been just mind-blowing, and some of the insights that people have shared have inspired some of the segments that have already happened. You heard the letter earlier about my friend who left school. That's the kind of stuff I want to hear about. You know what? Because he's beautiful and I absolutely love this man, let's listen to a Max Stampa-Brown song.
Tiptoe through the tulips as I took on your gown. I know I might be foolish, but we all got to get to the top somehow. I see you cross the greatest of lakes, and you pick me up, now put me down, now hand me up that rice cake. I run round circles of the boys by the pool. Yeah, we get down here. One, two, three. She say said I'm a damn tugboat, baby. I'm a damn tugboat, baby. I'm a damn tugboat.
Well, we've come to the end of our show, and as always, I thank you very much for listening. It means the world to me. Do me a favor, be kind to one another.
So I've been reading about nameless things, don't ask me what they